Okay, we're live apparently. Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I am very excited to have this young gentleman on the show, Chris Roberts, North Wales Dragons, which we're going to learn about in a little bit. But he comes to us all the way from the UK, and we're going to talk about how you can make a difference through recreational activity. Welcome, Chris. How are you doing? What time is it there? 10, 11?
It's actually 9 p.m.
Oh, 9. It's only 5 hours. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. So we're still wide awake at the moment. But you know what? You've actually made my night so far because you actually said young.
Everybody's a young man to me. I don't know. I figure I'm 900. Mine's the alcohol that keeps me going. But I did just a little bit of research because obviously, the United States sports are a little different than European, especially UK. And so I did a little research. So I'm fascinated by your journey. I'm fascinated by talking about this topic. I think people are looking for ways to make a difference. And there are so many people who love activity. They want to get out. They want to do things. But we've been sequestered for so long and quarantined. So I love all of it. But I told you before we went live, before we talk about that, people want to know the journey. They want to know a little bit about Chris. So give us a little origin story, if you don't mind.
Okay, how this mad journey came about. Well, going back to when I was a young man, when I was obviously younger than I am now. When I was 10 years old, my mother and father used to work in a factory, in a washing machine plant. And every summer they had a format where within this washing machine plant, what they would do is they would have a soccer tournament. So you would have inter-departments and they would play each other. So the machine shop would play the cab erectors and the press shop would play the staff and that sort of thing. So that was kind of my first introduction to soccer, but to community soccer. And of course, at 10 years old, you don't realize what's going on around you. And of course, you don't know what plans. You haven't got a crystal ball. You don't know what's going on in the future. So I got to the age of 16, 17, and I got an apprenticeship with an engineering company. And within this engineering company, we were dealing with other companies. And we would obviously work together side by side with construction teams. We would work together with carpenters, bricklayers, you name it. And what we used to do then, we used to say, okay, why not us engineers and carpenters get together and why don't we play soccer with you at lunchtime against against whoever? And that's the way that kind of developed over the next few years. And then as I was kind of getting older and getting more mature and what have you, I was thinking to myself, you know what, this is a good thing. We can do this a lot more often. So I was contacting other businesses and saying, how about we have an 11-a-side game one night? So we'd have an 11-a-side game and then we'd get together afterwards in a pub and, we'd kind of...
Always in a pub.
Always in a pub. Always has to involve beer. So that was the way that it actually went along, and I've been doing this all my life. So I'm now a young 61-year-old. So I've been doing this for 50 years. Anyway, going back to 2009, we were dealing with a company, and it was actually the oldest soccer club in the world. And they said to us, do you know how we can raise money for charity? So, at that time we were pretty naive and we said no, but, we'll go away and we'll have a think about it. So we kind of went away and we didn't really think about it. And so one night when December the 31st, 2008, my eldest son was in Scotland and he was at a Hogmanay party with his now in-laws. And he phoned up and he said, I know how we can raise money for charity. So I said, go on, how are we going to do that then? So we said, we're going to have a soccer match. So I said, okay. I said, who, when, why, what? So he said, well, what we'll do is there's a bunch of lads up here from Scotland. They'll come down and play. And he said, if you do all the organising, you do all the project management of it all. He said, you arrange the ground, you arrange the auctions, you arrange the raffles, that kind of thing. And I'll just get these guys to come down on a coach. So June the 8th, 2009, and these guys came down on a coach, and it was a rainy day. But if you know anything about Wales and the UK, it rains a lot here. We have our fair
very rainy.
Yeah. Yeah. So these guys came down, like I say, rainy day, rainy afternoon, and I remember they all got off the bus, off the coach, and they'd got these same tracksuit tops on. They all had their initials on it, what have you. They all looked the part. They all looked really, really good, like they've done it all before. Whereas we've kind of just messed around and played as best that we can. So the game kicked off, and it was 1-0, 2-0, 3-0, 4-0, until the final whistle went, and we got battered completely, 10-0. So we came off the pitch, and we were a bit despondent about that, thinking, well, we've arranged our first ever match, and that's not really gone. Yeah. So we got inside the clubhouse, and we got together. We had a raffle, we had the auction, we had an after dinner speaker, and we actually raised £2,500. So I'm assuming, I think that's probably around about your $3,000 mark.
About 3,000.
Yeah. So this event went off, and it was brilliant. We had a whale of a time. It was really, really good. And we thought, you know what? We'll do this again next year. So that's what we did. We planned for it next year, but we thought, if we do it in 2010, then what we do is we actually did it for a charity called Boots for Africa. So we thought, right, we'll raise money for Boots for Africa, but there is also Help for Heroes that we're close to as well. So we'll raise some money for Help for Heroes as well. So we did exactly the same thing again, but split the money in half. So same idea again, £2,000, and you know.
Were you doing it annually then? You were doing it once a year? Maybe? Did we lose you?
Yeah, there was a bit
there
of
you are.
Yeah.
You're doing it once a year?
And that was the start of it. That was the plan. Then what happened was in 2011, we did it again, but we actually got 4 teams involved this time round. And the reason why we got 4 teams was beat the team.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. So each one raised money for a different charity with the 4 teams. And then the next year in 2012, we decided that we would introduce a tournament. So then we got 8 teams involved with the tournament. So that meant that 8 charities were getting benefit from doing what we were doing.
Wow. Now wait, are they so you're doing all of this, and it's not necessarily an organized team, like an organized sports team. These are people who just want to play soccer, like we would call in America. Play soccer because they love the game, and then of course raising money is just an added benefit.
Yeah. And one thing that we won't do is we actually won't join a league. And the reason why we won't join a league is because we don't want to put any pressure on the players to come and turn up every Saturday at 3:00 and think they've got to play and they've got to win. The idea is that they play for inclusion and social rather than competitive. So how
does that work in the UK? I thought everything soccer was competitive.
No, we are definite believers that soccer should be all inclusive, because you know you've got young football teams, you've got You've got children who are playing 6 years old, 7 years old, and they all play for a team that is expecting some kind of elite from them.
Yes.
But it shouldn't be about elite whatsoever. It should be about inclusion. So every child should have the opportunity to play sport, whether they're fantastic at it or whether they're bad at it. But
Right.
they still should have that opportunity to do recreational activity.
So you've obviously seen them. You chose the topic of the show, the title, which I love. You've actually seen recreational activity make a difference. Tell us a little bit about that. You've seen it in whether it's the kids or adults or the charities. Tell us about why that's important. You're making a difference. How? What have you seen?
Well, we always say to people that there are 3 different avenues that you can use recreational activity to make a difference. So you can either be a charity, you could be a community group, or you can be a business. Now, if you're a charity and you want to generate some money, well, you can actually create a charity soccer team. You can even create a charity sports team. It doesn't have to be a soccer team. It doesn't have to be 11-a-side. It can be 5-a-side. You can have a basketball team of 3 of you. There is so many different ways that you can adapt recreational activity that can actually go and make a difference. So you are a community group, you are a charity, you are a business. Businesses, for example, what they do is every year they choose a charity and say, I want to support this charity for the year. But what they do is they say, okay, I'll give them £100 to go and do such and such a thing.
Right.
Well, isn't it not empowering to turn around and say to your work group, why not get together and do something that's recreational that will actually raise money for us? Because if you go back 150 years, 160 years, that's how soccer teams first started. They were factories. So what did they do in the lunchtime? They went out, they played football. Some of the biggest soccer teams in the world were created by people going out at lunchtime, dinner time, and going to play soccer. An example for you is a business that approached us, and this was a car parts company in Manchester. And this car parts company in Manchester, they had a chap working for them, and he developed pulmonary fibrosis.
Wow.
It eventually came to pass that he needed a lung transplant, but unfortunately, time and conditions caught up with him, and he passed away. The guys who worked alongside him obviously knew his wife, and his wife had set up a foundation called Breathe for Bob. So what they wanted to do was they wanted to do something in his name that would remember him, do something good between them as a bunch, and also make a difference. Yes. So they approached us and they said, we would love to have a soccer match with you. Would you host it? Would you do your thing? And we said, of course, we'd love to. So what we did was we facilitated it all. We arranged the day. They came down to us and they played. We did the same thing, did an auction, did a raffle, and they went away and they generated a lot of recognition, advertising, and also put money into the British Lung Foundation through Breathe for Bob. And that is a classic example of how a business can utilize recreational activity to make a difference. Because not only are they making a difference to their employees, because they got physical activity, they got mental health out of it, they got social inclusion out of it, but they also made a difference to their local community. And conversely, because our guys had played in that as well, we got the same feeling from it. We got the same.
Sure.
So
There's a lot of positive when you are giving back. People don't understand how the power of that. I mean, you're not just impacting the one life, your life, the person who buys the luncheon. This is a ripple effect when you are, especially when you're dealing with people who there's charitable needs or the youth. You're making an impact on a lot more people by including the recreational activity as part of any kind of fundraising, any kind of involvement, any kind of positive promotion. It doesn't. I love the fact that you said inclusion. Love that word. I think it's just so important. But I think a lot of people didn't realize how you could do it with, say, a soccer team. Do you prefer soccer or football? I have to ask.
Yeah, it's football for us over here.
Football, right?
Yeah.
All right. Tell people how they can get involved, how they can learn best about what you're doing. Maybe they want to talk to you about implementing it in their area of the world. What's the best way for them to reach you?
They can email me. There's Chris at northwalesdragons.co.uk. If you Google North Wales Dragons, you will find us because we're pretty well up there on social media. So, one click of a button can take you to Twitter, to Facebook, Instagram, you name it. We're across all of those, LinkedIn as well. So there is a way of tracking us down. And by all means, please, if you want to have a chat about it, by all means, contact me. I'd love to help. I've spoken to a few people over in the USA, and they've been. It's an idea that a few people would like to adopt, because soccer hasn't really kicked off the ground in a huge way. I know it's getting more and more prevalent, but I know that it can be developed. But again, going back to what I said before, it's not just about soccer. It's about any kind of sport, and we're not talking professional sport. Our youngest player is 16 years old. He flies around the pitch like like a whirlwind. But our oldest player is 65 years old.
Wow.
So, there's nothing there that's hard and fast that says that these guys are anything near professional or semi-professional. They just love to play because...
I love the concept of it. That's why I think it's universal. It's not just UK. It's not just North Wales. What you have created can be reproduced and make an impact much worldwide. So that's why I really, when we talked about you coming on the show, I'm like, this is such a great idea. And you're right, we haven't embraced soccer like we should. Orlando is very good because we have our own Orlando City Soccer. But of course, there's a beautiful Brit behind that. And so it's just, I love this concept. So I want people to reach out to Chris Roberts, go to northwalesdragons.co.uk, or you can reach out to me. I've tagged him and everything. He's very easy to get a hold of, and it can be on any of those platforms. So we went live on 5 platforms today. So any of those platforms, you can find him. He does a great job. I just love this concept, Chris. Thank you so much for being on the show. It's amazing.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And like I say, calling me young has actually made my 2021, to be honest.
You're young to me, Chris. You're young to me. Young at heart, for sure.
Yeah.
Young at heart and young in your mindset of doing good for the world. So thank you. Chris is with North Wales Dragons, and just reach out to him. You want to make a difference? All of you, most of the people who reach out say, I don't bring enough sports people on here. Well, here's something to throw all of it together: inclusion, sports, charity, community. And he's got a great idea. And don't let him scare you just because he's from the UK. He's obviously just as friendly and wonderful and giving when he's talking about sharing his ideas. So thank you, Chris. Awesome.
Yeah, no problem at all.
All right. We'll see you guys soon. We'll be back. Thank you, Chris Roberts. Go to northwalesdragons.co.uk.